Practice, the P word. We always call it swearing when talk about them.
You know
But
I love talking about
um,
practice here. Let's go.
but practice, when you talk about practice, people go, whoa, 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 no, 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 no. That people perceive practice to be down the range, beating balls, and there's an element of block practice where you need to beat some balls. But if you go into the range just hitting balls with no purpose, then all you're doing is hitting balls into a field, and that's probably, arguably, actually going to make you worse because if you've got no purpose, then you're just ingraining your bad habits a bit more.
The following is a conversation with Ian Taylor. Ian and I actually did our PJ coaching together many, many years ago. Since then, he's been a full-time coach, head professional, and director of golf. Ian is a great coach who's got a huge passion for helping people get better. And in this conversation, we cover loads of top tips to help golfers improve their scores at every level of the game. I hope you enjoy. What do most golfers get wrong? So we know how many players can't break 100 and can never break 100 or can't break 90 and don't. So what's the main difference you see between those that get better and those that get stuck and don't move on?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, what I would say is there's no right or wrong. Every golfer has different needs. Um, and so it's not like saying, well, this will make you better and this will get you sub 100. And if you do this, you'll get sub 90. It doesn't work like that because we're all different. But what I'd say is general habits between someone who progresses and improves and someone that stagnates and stays the same is firstly understanding what they're good at and understanding what they're not so good at. So, there's loads of ways of doing that, stats and that sort of stuff. And that's quite detailed. And I appreciate a lot of people don't like data and that sort of stuff. But you can do it in a very basic sense. How many putts did you have when you played? What was your score? Because the number at the bottom of your card defines how you played. We all have days where we hit it great, but we don't shoot the number that we believe we should. But yeah, in a nutshell, it's knowing what you do well in relation to your ability. So if you're a 28 handicapper, how are you performing in relation to a 28 handicapper, not how are you performing in relation to a 5 handicapper. That would be the first thing, knowing what they're good at and knowing what they're not so good at. Practice, the P word. We always call it swearing when talk about them.
You know
But,
I love talking about practice here. Let's go.
but practice, when you talk about practice, people go, whoa, 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 no, 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 that people perceive practice to be down the range, beating balls. And, there's an element of block practice where you need to beat some balls. But if you go into the range just hitting balls with no purpose, then all you're doing is hitting balls into a field. And that's probably, arguably, actually going to make you worse because if you've got no purpose, then you're just ingraining your bad habits a bit more. But generally, the ones who improve, they accept that they need to practice. And actually, they thrive. They want to go and practice. They enjoy practice. And that's a skill in itself. How do you be good at, how do you know what to practice? How do you make practice meaningful and in context to what you're trying to achieve? And then how do you make it fun and enjoyable? So that would be another key aspect.
So we've got that as a question. So this was someone's going to ask you later on, but we might as well dive into it now.
Well,
You and I love this, and we've had some great chats around it. But how do you make practice fun and enjoyable from your perspective? And then I'll happily sort of throw in some ideas as well. So golfers come along, and as you say, the first thing is they think practice only on the range, whereas you and I know practice is on the golf course.
oh
It's
yeah.
doing some stuff at home. It's on the chipping green. It's asking your mates and just saying, "Do you want to have a quick competition?" So all of these things. So how would you go about sort of golfers coming to you and they say, "I want to get better. I know I need to practice, but how do I make practice fun?"
So first of all, you need to accept, if you want to get better, you firstly need to accept that you're going to practice and you've got to look at practice as a positive thing. And sometimes that's quite hard because you only know what you know. So what I would say is if you can, try and surround yourself with other people. And it's a bit like going to play golf on a Sunday morning. Whilst I appreciate there are times that people want to go and play on their own, but do I want to go and play on my own? No, it's a bit dull and it's a bit boring. So why do I want to practice on my own? So firstly, if you can get yourself as part of a community and practice with other people, I think that's definitely getting the fun scale going up. That's also getting the competitive juices going. And that's actually created an environment where you can bounce off someone else and say, well, I think this and I'm not sure on this. And, what you think you're doing and what you're actually doing is sometimes a bit different. So get yourself practicing with others if you can. It's not always easy, but good golf pros out there have communities and have platforms where people can get stuck in with other people. The second thing on that is try and practice with people that are similar ability as you and slightly better, because it will give you something to aspire to. It will get you to understand what good looks like. So yeah, that would be a second thing. Set loads of challenges, skills tests. Just, it's like when you go out and you play golf. Even if you're playing with your three mates, you generally play for the beers, or you play for lunch, or a friendly five, or something. So try and incorporate that in your practice. It provides pressure, it provides banter, camaraderie. But what you got to do in your practice is you've got to make it like the game itself. So when you're down the range beating balls 7-9, 7-9, 7-9, 7-9, that's not in context to the course. Don't get me wrong, there are times to do that, because if you're ingraining a habit or a feeling or emotion, what we call block practice, that's really good. But you want to move out of that pretty quickly if you can. So just, try and have some variety, make it competitive, have a target, a challenge in mind. And that would really help with your fun aspect.
Yeah. So I think that's it. I think you're spot on there. Make it sociable if you can, and if you can have people who are a little bit better than you, that gives you that standard to aim for. Make it scoreable, make it competitive. If you haven't got anyone else, play skills games and try and beat your own score. And then, as you say, it's even better if you've got other people with you. So I know you have a load of skills games. We have some. So let's throw some out. So can you tell everyone about 100 Lives, first of all, on the range?
Yeah, so really good for knowing your numbers, right? So it's a really basic thing, is that 90% of golfers, or 91%, there was some stat that was thrown out a few years ago, 91% of golfers have a distance measuring device. But so you stand there, you have your watch or your Bushnell or your screen or whatever it is. So it tells you how far you are from point A to point B. But yet, I have not met many golfers that actually know how far all their clubs go. So yeah, it's 150 yards away, and everyone thinks their 7-iron goes 150 yards. But actually, it's like, yes, it helps, but actually it'd be much more helpful if you knew what club went what distance after you've assessed the conditions. So a really good skills challenge I do with, elite players all the way through to 100 shooters is 100 Lives. So what you'll do is, and you keep it as random as possible. So you'll throw out a number, so you'll go 63 yards. So what the player has to do is they then have to identify what club they need, and all that sort of stuff, and then they hit it. So you need to be at a range that has some sort of measuring device, top tracer, that sort of thing, or a launch monitor. And so the target is 63 yards. If you hit it 70 yards, you're 7 yards away from the number that you're intending to hit. So you lose 7 lives. So you hit one shot and you've lost 7 lives. So you're now down to 93 lives. So every yard is a life. Then you might go 100 yards and you hit it 99 yards. Well, again, it doesn't matter if you're under or over from a basic level. Every yard you are away from that point you're intending to hit is a life. And you've basically got to see how many balls can you hit without losing your life.
That's great. And it does something that so many golfers don't do on the range, which is look at actually how far they hit it. They're very good at accuracy, but less good at how far. So yeah, that has some constraints. You can even kind of like do your best you can if you're on a range that doesn't go, I think I lost 10 lives there or whatnot. I'm going to throw another one in for more accuracy, which is again super easy win if people just want something to make practice more measurable, which is Hugo's range challenge. Shout out to Hugo Dobson, great player, we spoke to him before. But he does something that he just did every week just to sort of run through his bag, and he'd get sort of a target. So it'd be for him probably something like 5 yards wide, but I'd say 10 yards wide is probably like single figure handicap, 15 yards wide is probably teen, 20 yards wide is 20 handicap, and then you can go 25 if you're a beginner. And then you start with the highest club in your bag. So you start with a sand wedge. You just have to hit a shot that goes airborne and then lands between that target. And if you do, you then move down to pitch and wedge, repeat. And if you miss at any point, you stay on that club until you actually get it to land between your goal. And you work all the way through. And this game starts super easy. And I was like, it's an absolute doddle. Until you get down to 4-iron, 5-iron, and you realise, this is quite challenging. And you start to miss a few. But again, your score in that game is how many balls does it take you to get through your whole bag? You're allowed a maximum of 40 shots. And then you can go through it and go, okay, 31. I've got 31. Next time I'm going to come back and I'm going to try and get 29. And that for me is such a better way than, as you said at the start, the people that just go, oh, I've got to go to the range and beat balls. And then, did I get any better? No, I don't think so.
And well, that's it. Because, it's a bit like going to see a personal trainer or you're trying to lose weight. You know when you've lost weight because it's based upon a number on the scales. And all right, there's, it's not as simple as that because you might be building muscle, losing fat and stuff. But when people go and practice, it's very subjective. That was good or that was bad. Well, okay, why was it good? What did good look like? How do we progress you even more? How do we maintain that standard? And I think something simple like that is, if you've had 31 shots, then you do it again, you have 29 and 27. Well, you then start to get an idea, okay, well, 27 is good. I found that difficult, but I got there. Then you come back and you have 38. Well, you know that that's not good in relation to what you have achieved. So, it's really important. You need to know what good looks like, and you need to know what not so good looks like.
Yeah.
And that will then, because you do that when you play golf, right? Your round is dictated by the number at the bottom of the scorecard. It's as simple as that. And the first thing you do when you go in the club or you play a comp, you go, oh, Will, how did you get on? You go, and then the number that's going to come out is typically going to be higher than what good looks like to you. So we're all governed by a number when we play. So we've got to do that with our practice. Got to.
And the other thing with practicing like that is you practice worse. You hit way more shots that you would never do in practice, but it reflects how you play on the golf course because all of a sudden there's a bit of a consequence. And I think that's another thing for golfers to understand is that your practice performance does not reflect your learning. So you can actually have a really challenging practice session, make lots of mistakes, but that actually may be advancing your learning. Hitting there and hitting perfect 6-iron, perfect 6-iron, perfect 6-iron with no target does not make you a better golfer. So that's another challenge that I think golfers have to try and do is like, okay, this practice was challenging, I hit some bad shots, but that means that I may be getting better at golf. And that's something I think which is challenging to get across.
And that's really good because we talk about, are we good? If we are good, how much are we better by, that sort of stuff. But actually, when you get to 5-iron and you can't get it through, okay, well, I'm missing it. Well, where are you missing it? I'm missing it to the right. Great. Well, if you have a coach, then if you can't do any more with that, go and give that information to someone who can. And again, you're always learning about your game. This is good, but actually I'm finding some pinch points with my lower irons. And I'm not just missing it. When I'm missing it to the right. And when I hit it to the right, it starts on target, but it curves. And I'm missing it 20 yards right rather than 5 yards right. So you're just learning and improving and reflecting and understanding more about your game, which comes back to the point that we sort of talked about in the previous question. What do the golfers who improve generally do? They're just aware of what they're good at and what they're not so good at.
Okay, we're building a nice image here. So what I've got is golfers who want to get better. Number one, just keep some sort of basic stats. Just anything, but just have an idea of how you play. Number two, practice well. And by that, we're sort of defining sociable if possible, but certainly play some skills games, keep some scores. I think the next step down, have you got anything else on practice before we...
Yeah, I teach or I've taught practice quite a lot, and we've had some great fun with it because people just don't know how to practice. But when you practice, what I would say, and what's always been my sort of 5 pillars around practice, is make it purposeful. So when you go to the range or the short game area on the court, what is your intention with that 90-minute practice session or 20-minute practice session? Whatever the time is, you should go with an intention. So if it's on the putting green, my goal today is to improve my distance control. That's the purpose. Secondly, whatever practice you're doing, make sure it's in context to the course. So when you're going down the range doing Happy Gilmores, yeah, it's great and it's fun and get stuck in. But if you're not going to produce that on the golf course, then is it really making you a better player? Probably not. Third is always make it variable. So again, particularly down at the range, hit 6-iron, hit 8-iron, change your target, hit different distances, try and hit it high, hit it low. Try and move it left to right, right to left, subject to the standard of player that you are within your capabilities and your means, but have variation. Uphill lies, downhill lies. When people go chipping green, chipping's great when you're practicing, right? Because you're always putting it on that nice fluffy line. It's easier to chip with, right? Practice good lies, bad lies, uphill, downhill, in a bunker. Just have as much variation as you can. That then also ticks the box of making it in context to the course. Make your practice challenging. I don't know. I don't actually know many bodybuilders anyway, but I wouldn't have thought there's many bodybuilders out there that got really big and ripped by just lifting those 1 kilogram dumbbells, right? There come a point where they went up and they got a bit bigger and they found it more challenging. And so you've got to stretch yourself. You don't get good at anything by just plodding along. You've got to make it challenging. Don't get me wrong, don't make it too challenging because then you're going to get demoralised and disheartened and then probably not practice. stretch yourself within your means. Always make it challenging. And then the final sort of fifth pillar that we spoke about is what I would say: make it tangible, make it measurable, have a score, know where you are in relation to good, know where you are in relation to bad, and if you want to get better, how much you need to get better by. What does someone who you aspire to be or perform like? What does he score or she score? That really for me is the sort of the 5 pillars around practice.
I think that's awesome. Really good way to sum that up. And anyone listening should really just scribble that down. Next time you go to the range, just get that out and just do tick all of those 5 off before you're about to spend an hour. Because it goes back to what we were saying before is, don't think golfers understand, you can practice for 5 hours and get worse. You really can if you do the wrong things. And we actually see it quite a lot. So yeah, learning's really expensive. And I think those 5 pillars are absolutely superb for saying, are you actually stressing yourself in the right way to actually make the developments you want, just like a bodybuilder or someone trying to get stronger, you know. So I think that's great. Then what I'd love to do, and I know you spent a lot of time on the course with players as well, so someone's got their stats, someone's then got a good practice structure around what they're doing, and they're following your 5 pillars. When they get out on the course, you obviously can't see whoever's watching this, but what are the common errors? What are the things that you just see time and time again those players doing on the golf course where you just think, you could lower your number without even changing your technique or anything else?
And do you know what? You just hit the nail on the head. There are so many golfers out there. When you think of a golf lesson or trying to get better, people think, I don't want to do that because I'm going to have to change my swing. I'm going to have to do something that feels uncomfortable. And again, don't get me wrong. There are times that you need that. But I feel quite strongly that someone that shoots over 100, I'm confident I've done it time after time, or not me, the players that have done it, but with a bit of support. I'm confident that you could drop 15 shots without changing your technique. Not at all, right? So how do you do that? So the first thing, and we spoke about it earlier, is know your numbers, right? It doesn't matter whether you hit baby fades that are really low and they only go 120 yards, right, with your driver. If that's how far it goes, that's how far it goes. It doesn't matter, but know that that's how far it goes. So when you're out on the golf course and you're playing with your mates that hit it a bit further and they're trying to carry that fairway bunker, straight away you go, great, I'd love to. It's downwind, but I can't hit that shot, right? So know your numbers, particularly in and around the greens as well. From sort of, I'd say 6 iron in, it's really important, and that means different things for different people because better players typically hit it a bit further. 6 iron for some might go 200 yards, but a 6 iron for others might go 100. But know your numbers, particularly inside 6 iron and down. The second thing is test and challenge yourself that those numbers are accurate, right? So get down to a range as Toptracer or use a launch monitor. So don't do it once and go, I've got my numbers. I did it here once 10 months ago, and it says like test them regularly. And when you miss, where do you miss? And that sort of stuff. You missing to the right, to the left, sure, think about that. The next thing is chipping and pitching, having loads of variety, right? Loads of golfers out there. And again, I don't mean change your technique, but just chip with a 7 iron. Chip with a lob wedge, right? When you speak to someone, what club do you chip with? Always with their pitching wedge, right? But the truth of the matter is you can chip with every club in your bag except your driver and your putter, right? So get good at chipping with a 5 iron, a 7 iron, a 9 iron, And I appreciate there's a bit more probably knowledge and understanding. You need to know when to use that club in that situation, which is again a skill in itself. But have variety and don't be afraid of using different clubs because sometimes the scenario dictates that you do need that pitching wedge, but you can't always be pitching wedge. And if the answer is I know, but I'm really good with my pitching wedge, that just means that you haven't practiced enough with your other clubs to make you confident enough to use them in the first place. So I would say that that is the key. And then get really good at lag putting, really.
Yeah, well, so this is another thing I want to ask you is when we work with more elite players at the university, I'm staggered at the targets they pick. And better players don't aim at the flag. Even some of our best players are just aiming pin high left. But then you speak to a 15 handicapper and they've got an 8 iron into a green and they're taking on a right hand pin over a bunker. I'm thinking someone off +2 doesn't hit that shot.
Exactly.
you can, if you want to have fun, great. But if not, it's just okay. Where's the big target? Where's the big chunk that I can aim for? And then how am I going to get the ball up pin high? Pin high would be great. And then I've got a 30-foot putt. And then it's building that skill set around how you play. So I like what you said there, and it's kind of then knowing how you're going to hit it off the tee. So I only hit it 150 yards, and I fade it. Please aim left. Don't try and aim straight and hit it down the middle. And then how can I get it up near the green or in a safe place? And then how good's my chipping and putting? And as you said, have you actually seen that you've done more with that level than me? But 15 shots, is that doable with some players without even changing their technique?
Oh, 15 shots as well is loads.
It's a huge amount.
One of my greatest successes is I won't name his name, but he was an older gentleman. He was a 115 shooter. And what that meant is someone that would never play with anyone else because he's embarrassed about his score. He didn't have a clue about golf, right? He didn't know how to play golf. And I mean the skill of actually getting your ball around the golf course. I don't mean, how to swing it and all that sort of stuff. And we just talked about the basics of, okay, well, we got him chipping with hybrids and stuff like that because, we just got the volatility down. We chose the easy shots wherever we could. And he was someone that, his 7-iron went just under 100 yards. We didn't hit it very far. Now, this gentleman he plays every week, so he's got more confidence about his game. His best round is 88.
Wow.
But he is someone who he'll play with anyone. He will play on any golf course. We just come back from Loch Lomond, actually. So, we played a really prestigious golf course that before it'd have been like, no, there's no way. And he's enthralled within the club. He's playing a few competitions. And golf now just means something completely different. And, we have done some stuff on his technique because, we were working together for sort of 3.5 years, but and still are. But we come back to, and it'd probably be a good question to ask him, what are the real light bulb moments? And it is about knowing your numbers, understanding what you can do. And this is a point we didn't talk about. Is don't try and hit a shot that you can hit. Or if you can only hit 1 in 10 times, you know what I mean? You've hit your driver and you're going to that par 5 that's over water and you're going to try and get there in 2 and you're a 22 handicapper. Yeah, you might be able to hit it, but you're going to miss it more than you're going to hit it. And guess what? You probably get 2 shots on that hole anyway, so you don't need to go for it. Just hit 7-iron off the tee, another 7-iron, lay up short again with a 7-iron, pitching wedge it on. So you're on for 4, 2-putt, make a 6. Happy days, you made a net birdie. Do that all day long.
3 points.
And it's one thing I always say is it's the boring basic. It's not the sexy stuff, right? But if you get good at the unsexy stuff, the number at the bottom of your scorecard will come tumbling down.
So I think that leads us on to one last thing that I really wanted you to share with everyone. So the story, and I think how we got to this was, we have like a high performance program at Exeter University. We've got incredible S&C, psych, physio here. The physio came to watch everyone tee off, and he was just shocked. He was like, "This is shocking. What is everyone doing?" They got on the first tee. They weren't prepared. They all hit terrible shots. I think everyone pretty much hit a shot that they wouldn't be happy with off the first tee, but they weren't prepared, so to speak, to play good golf. And then I remember speaking to you, and you told me a story about Essendon and the first hole there. So if you want to share.
We used to analyse year over year lots of things. We always used to pull on data, but one of the things is one year we had about 113,000 rounds that were played on our new course. So we had 36 holes. And one thing that was really interesting is there's, new course is really good. Lots of bunkers, quite a bit of water, that sort of stuff. But its first hole was 330 yards long. So in the grand scheme of things, that's not a very long hole as a par 4. So 330 yards long. There's trees left and trees right, but you've got ample room. So it's not a tight hole. You've got one fairway bunker and then a couple of bunkers up near the green. So a good player would probably hit 4-iron up there and then hit a pitching wedge on type thing. But when we looked at the stats and the data, the first hole ranked as the 6th hardest hole on the golf course. And if you'd have played 18 holes and then come back and played another 18, that would not rank as the 6th hardest hole. It's probably the the third easiest hole on the golf course. But then it got us thinking, well, why is it ranked the sixth? You know, it's facts, it's data, it's 113,000 rounds of good players, bad players, middle tier, T handicappers, that sort of stuff. So why is it ranked at the sixth hardest? And the simple fact is that because it's the first hole. If that first hole you picked it up and moved it to the 15th, it would be an easy hole. And that really then got us thinking around preparation. So I get it, people are busy. They've steamed into the car park. They've got their clubs on their back. They're chasing up to the first tee. They're stuffing their bacon roll down their throat on the way up because their mates are giving it to them. They've not hit any putts. They've not hit any balls. They're stiff as a board. And then they play. And it really, I was like, wow, we could actually save people 2 shots around just on the first hole alone, 15 minutes of their time, hit 15 balls in the nets, hit 15 putts on the putting green, hit a couple of chips, and just arrive calm and ready and prepared before you play. And it was mad. So there was, everyone that joined, I had a long-term program that was a non-negotiable. That's what they had to do. And, we saw some good success on the first hole.
I love that. And even in our case as well, Andy from Motion Physio, our link, he's got a great dynamic warm-up for golfers. It takes about 6 minutes. Some of our elite guys are like, this is life-changing. No one's ever shown me this. It's incredible. But his point is, you should be warm and you should be ready to play golf. It's a warm-up for a reason, and we don't, and he was like, I don't know if people are scared to do this because it looks different and we don't do this like we would do in football and rugby and other sports, but I'll link that and people can have a look. But that is genuinely, it's a great warm-up for anyone. And then I think you're right, just hit some shots is sort of the non-negotiable for that.
Well, you don't see many of the Premier League teams with their players like rocking up 15 minutes, but they're coming off the bus 15 minutes before kickoff, they're having a cup of tea, and then they're straight out there. Like they don't do it. So if sometimes you just, no, the majority of the time you need to think inside the box, not outside the box, right? Get good at the basic things and the simple things, and the little 1 or 2%ers, they'll make a big difference. And
golfers are so happy to spend £500 on a new driver, but ask them to do a 6-minute warm up. Crazy.
Nah, 500 quid all day long, isn't it?
Yeah, that's definitely
my money.
A difference.
It's the easy win, isn't it? That's the easy bit. Give them the money.
Oh, brilliant. So, and then I think last point on this: how many times do you start badly and then you go and spiral downhill? So it's not just that first hole; it's the fact that when you make a 5 or a 6 on that first hole, then you're chasing and then you're questioning your swing and you start to overthink things. So yeah, I think that's a nice easy win. So look, I think we've gone through nicely in terms of this sort of idea of club golfers and how they can get better. Stats, basic stats is good. Practice, make it sociable, make it fun. 5 pillars for practice is really good. I think then on the golf course, knowing your game, hitting those shots, choosing the shots that you know you can play every time. We have talked around it a little bit. We kind of know that, you can't probably go from 115 to 75 without doing something technically. We love coaching. Both you and I coach a lot. What advice have you got for players trying to find a coach to help them with their game?
That's a really good question. Do you know what? I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that. So it's a bit like your hairdresser, right? You need to get out there and go and see a few people and find what works for you. But what I'd say before you do that is do some research. So look who's active. And that doesn't mean to say that someone that's really active is really good. I wouldn't agree with that. But just have a little look. Go on YouTube. YouTube, there's some great information. Go on social media. Look on websites. Look who's doing what and what meets the needs of you. Don't think that just because someone teaches on tour that they're the best person for you. Not at all. Which leads me on to the second point is know what you want in a coach. So do you want someone who's going to tell you as it is and give you a kick up the arse? Do you want someone who's going to be softly? Do you want someone who's going to be really technical and do loads on the range? Do you want someone who's going to be out on the golf course? Do you want someone who's going to influence your whole golfing journey and encourage you to meet other people? Engage with other, practice programs and, do stuff as groups. Know exactly what you're looking for and then try and find the coach that meets those needs is really important rather than, don't get me wrong, you can go up to your local golf club, but sometimes the best coach for you might be an hour in the car, it might be 20 minutes in the car, it might be on your doorstep, but and then get out there and and have a few lessons. Don't be precious. And I think there's this view, and even amongst coaches, is that, oh, he's my player, he's that. Just get out there and go and see a few people and go and experience it and find what works and what doesn't work, and find someone that you can really connect with.
Yeah, I agree with that. And until you have those different types of coaches, you don't even know they exist. So
No,
yeah,
sure.
you're right. You've got to get out. And then I think my acid test always is with players. You go have one lesson, and after the lesson, golf should always seem simpler than it did before. If it
Yeah,
seems more complicated, doesn't mean they're a bad coach, but they just may not be for you. So you want to come away feeling golf simpler, and you're excited to get better.
yeah, and empowered to go. When you've had a golf lesson, you're like, get me up the range. I've had a lesson today, and I'm straight back up the range. Like, that is a sign that, okay, you've got something from it that you wanted. You've probably had a good connection and relationship, and buy into the person who's giving you the information and the knowledge. And one thing a coach cannot do is a coach cannot make you better. What a coach can do is they can give you all the tools, all the resources, all the information, all the emotional support and the agony aunt and all that and the guidance. But the only person that can make you better is you. But try and find that person who's going to give you exactly what you need.
Oh, that's a great statement. Absolutely love that. Written that down.
Hmm.
Awesome stuff. So I've got some quick fire questions to wrap up, but I feel like we kind of covered it in terms of break. Does anything change when we go from breaking 100, breaking 90, breaking 80 more elite?
Yeah, definitely. And again, I come back to the point that just to break 100, you don't need to do X, Y, or Z. It's different for every individual. And a really good example of that is, you might have someone who's physically strong, maybe had a rugby background, 6'4", but new to golf, shooting 100. Well, you can probably imagine that hitting the ball further isn't the issue there. It's maybe more of the control aspect. But then you might have someone that's, 14 years old, maybe not physically developed yet, maybe doesn't have the same level of coordination, or they might need to work on contact and generating the ball hitting it a bit further. So there's one thing I say is there's no one size fits all whatsoever, but there are kind of guidelines for each.
Okay. And do you want to give any guidelines for breaking 100?
No, I don't want to give any. No. Okay, so breaking 100. So again, there's a million and one things you could do, but I thought about this and I wrote it down. So simple things. If you want to break 100, know your numbers. So know how far all your golf clubs go. And it doesn't mean they all go the same yardage. There's going to be a tolerance. It might go 10 yards longer, 10 yards shorter, particularly if you're a 100 shooter. But know a rough idea of how far your golf clubs go. And by how far they go, I mean they're your carry numbers, not your total number. And the reason I say that is carry is the point in which you strike the ball and it lands on the ground. What happens after that will be dictated by the conditions in the environment. So if we're playing, getting into this time of year, if you carry at 140, well, the ball's probably only going to go 145. But if you're doing it in the peak of July, particularly after the summer we've had, yes, it's going to carry 140-ish, might go a nip further, nip shorter, but it might travel 160. So your carry numbers won't vary too much. Your total distance will vary hugely. So know your carry numbers. That's really key. The second thing around breaking 100 is get the ball on the ground, particularly in and around the green. So
I like that.
Put the lob wedge away, get the sand wedge away. And there's times where you need that club, absolutely. And again, the great players are really good at playing those shots. But just get the ball on the deck. If you're on the fringe and you can putt it, putt it. If you can't putt it and you've got to get it over a little something, get your 8 iron out, get your 6 iron out, get your 4 iron out. But play your straighter face clubs wherever you possibly can. And just limit your blobs. And that's not a really simple thing to say, but you're a 100 shooter, even trying to break 100, you will have blobs, right? But if you've had 8 blobs in a round, try and turn them into 4 blobs. That's all your task is, right? And those 4 blobs that you've eliminated, all you need to do is turn them into 1-pointers. You don't need to turn them into birdies. Just turn your blobs into 1-pointers and try and halve the amount of blobs that you have, but accept that you will still make blobs.
Nice. And then what about if we move down to breaking 90, which I think so many golfers around that level of want to break 90. What would be the top tips, I suppose? What stays the same and what changes?
Yeah, so again, all of the above. But I would say it's a bit more about controlling your ball off the tee. So it's not really about how far you hit it, but it's about making sure that you protect your golf ball. So when you approach a hole and it's tree lined, I pick somewhere like Woburn. Woburn is tree lined everywhere. Just pick the club that you feel that 85, 90% of the time you're going to have a shot with you're going to have a shot into the green, or you're going to have a second shot, right? Just if your driver's not working, just put it away. Just control yourself off the tee. That might mean hitting hybrid. It might mean having some different skills, some different options. But yeah, break in 90, control your ball off the tee. Get really good at pitching. And the reason I say that, what I mean by pitching is somewhere from, sort of half, three-quarter swings with all your wedges. So it might be 30 yards up to 100 yards. And the reason I say that is that while I've said control your ball off the tee, you're still going to miss some shots into the trees. We'll chip it out. And if you get really good at pitching, then you can pitch it on the green in 2-putt, right? Don't hit it in the trees, knock it out, and then compound the problem even more. So get really good at pitching.
Yeah, and this is it. It's amazing how that advice can actually save you another 6-7 shots, but it can. It really can over a round of golf. Then we get to, I suppose, what everyone aspires to. Many club golfers is shooting the 70s. How do you break 80?
No blobs, right? And I say that loosely. You're always going to have a blob because do you know what? Doesn't matter how good you are. Best players in the world hit bad shots. And I'll come on and talk about that at elite level in a minute. But just try and limit your blobs. So if you can have no blobs, bogeys are actually really good scores. So just try and reduce all your blobs. Acceptance, and again on that point is, like I said, bogeys, when you get yourself in trouble, you hit it in the trees and you're trying to break 8, you don't have many shots. Just chip it out, hit it on the green and 2-putt, right? Bogeys at certain times are actually really good scores because the chances are you're going to make it, if you're aspiring to break 80, you're going to have a birdie somewhere or you're going to have lots of pars and you've still got enough shots, you've still got your handicap. So acceptance, accept the fact that bogeys are good scores, don't compound them and trying to hit that wonder shot and then walk off with a triple bogey. And then what I'd say is work towards being sort of sub 32, 31 putts around. If you can reduce your putts, get them to low 30s, high 20s, you'll be flying.
I think this is something I want to bring it up because it's so often misunderstood, is when you look at the elite PGA Tour stats, strokes gained short game never makes a difference. And they're always like, well, it doesn't matter. The problem is that is true for that case because they hit so many freaking greens and they're all so damn good that there's no difference. Whereas when you get down to amateur golfers, it's so important because you miss most greens and actually you're not very good at that skill. So all of a sudden short game does become a big win. And you and I both know it's very tough to get someone to hit the golf ball like Justin Thomas. But in an hour, you can take anyone out there and make them a better chipper and putter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so those skills, they are really useful for getting you down. And yeah, you've got to improve your hitting and striking at some point. But it's so easy to save shots on those areas.
And it's really about stacking the odds in your favour. So again, don't worry about the sexy stuff. Just know what shot to play in a given situation, particularly trying to break 80. Because someone who's trying to break 80 can play. They can seriously play and they can hit shots. But just if you can get an 8-iron on the back of it, or a 7-iron or a 6-iron, just get it running. If that's the percentage play in that given scenario, just do it. Know what you know. Just stack the odds in your favour. That's all I'd say.
I like it. And then what about if we move to more elite? So we're looking at people, I suppose getting down to scratch and then trying to shoot under 70.
Yeah. So there is going to become a point where you do need to hit the ball a bit further. So you don't see many people out on tour that don't hit it very far. They all hit miles. So if you want to be an elite golfer, you need to learn how to hit it further. Because elite golf, you start playing long golf courses, nearly up to sort of 7,000, 7,200 yards, and that makes those par fours seem long. So you need to get the ball out there. You need to have lots of variety in your game, and what I mean by that is hitting off the tee, right? Yeah, you bomb your driver, great, but sometimes bombing your driver isn't the option because the hole doesn't dictate it, or your driver's not performing. So learn a good knockdown shot. Learn how to play a stop shot. So if you know that you're not playing very well, but you know that you can just hit a little left to right fade and keep it in play, have skills in your armory that can allow you to still get the ball around the golf course. And then the secondary aspect of that is in and around the green. Know how to play high shots, low shots, mid shots. be confident in playing all of them. Don't just, I know you have your go-to club, but really try and have lots of variety in your shot making rather than just being channel focused on one particular shot. Not everything is, when I play golf, and I don't know if you put me in that elite bracket anymore because I don't play and compete that much, but
we had a bit of an interesting game last time we played, didn't we?
we did, yeah. We won't talk about that. But good win, I just play loads of knockdown shots because I know that when I flatten the flight, I keep the ball in play. I just hit loads of 3/4 shots. So I could hit a 4-8 iron, but I'm much more comfortable just hitting a 3/4 7, flatten the flight, and particularly going into this time of year because it doesn't matter if you flight it in low, that the greens will hold. So that's an example of having some tools and some skills that are aside from the norm. And then really it's around, I'd say the final aspect is having structure in your program, because if you want to be elite, you can't really wing it. You need an element of practice. You probably need to be in the gym. You probably need to have a coach that you're working alongside. You need to take stats and data stats. So have some structure in a program. And most people need support and help with that. And that will differ from player to player. And then really it's around mentality, commitment, acceptance, that sort of mental strength that, God, if you want to be good at elite level, you're going to suffer. You're going to have some bad rounds of golf. And, like we've done as golf pros, we what's the saying? Those who can't play teach. But every golf pro who's turned pro did it because they wanted to play for a living. And, some of us realised that very early on. But I have so much admiration for the guys that go out there and earn a living, because when you're teeing it up and you've got your electricity bill to pay, you've got your mortgage to pay, and you know that the event you're in, you can only do that by finishing top 5. You need to have that confidence. You need to have that mentality that you're still going to go out and get it done. And even if you're not bringing your A-star swing, 10 out of 10 swing to that event that week, find ways of getting the ball round. And just have a real strong mentality and commitment and confidence and that never die attitude.
So I'm going to sum that up because we covered a lot there. Got to hit it further. Agree with that. But then you actually said something quite nice, which is around, like, when you're on the golf course, you play within yourself. So I think people that are on that journey, what they realize is you've got to move your ceiling up here so that you've got the ability, but then you play most of your shots down here at 70%.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, and I think players get confused because they think they've got to hit full out on the golf course. Can't agree more with your second point, which is structure and program, and go find a good coach. Because I think part of getting really good is actually emotionally offloading. What do I need to do every day? And actually, if a coach can tell you, do that, go play there, you'll be fine. That allows you to focus on performing. And then I love your last one, which is find a way to get it round. One of the most underrated abilities is someone who hits it horrific and still shoots level par.
Yeah.
And that is just a skill that everyone wants. But you've actually got to take some tough decisions and play some scrappy golf to do it. But no, I think that's...
And that, do you know what? I probably, don't get me wrong, I'd rather shoot 69 than 72. But what I would say is I've had many times where I've walked off the golf course shooting 69 and thought, I've left 3 or 4 out there because I hit it so good today. But one thing I love is shooting 72 and like, do you know what? That is the best I could have shot today because I was god awful. But I scrapped it and I made it work and just shoot a respectable score. So yes, the number is always the most important, but actually you can quite often get more fulfillment from not hitting it very good, but just getting the ball round. And they're the sort of matches in match play that opposition hate when you don't hit it very good.
Yeah.
You just get it round, get it up and down, and you just scrap and fight.
Well, we covered a lot there in that last 10 minutes, but that was awesome. Look, first of all, thank you so much, Ian. Absolute pleasure just to have a chat. I don't want to drop it in. I know you're taking a little bit of a semi-retirement at the moment, as I like to call it, from golf.
I wouldn't call it
He's still coaching a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm going to do sort of 2 or 3 days a month because I just love it. At the moment, I'm just taking some time off just to spend with my family. My boys are young, and it's just wicked to have the opportunity to hang out with them. And because work's pretty full on. So, but yeah, I'm going to do 2 or 3 days a month. I'm really excited to get out there. And yeah, my focus is very much the 100 shooter. Love them. Can't get enough of it.
Yeah. And then if you got any, I know you're quite low on social and other bits, you're more on family, but is there any way that people can contact you?
Yeah, so drop me an email, Ian_Taylor100 at hotmail.com. I have some social platforms, but I'm not very active, and you probably get pretty bored of me. So, yeah, drop me an email. If I can be of any help, I would love to help people, as I know you would. And, you know, that's why we do what we do. We get plenty of pleasure seeing people play better golf. And, yeah, so
As
if I
we've
can
said
help,
many
that's
times
it.
before, it's better than a proper job, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I haven't had a
Always.
proper job.
Yeah.
So, been winging it all this time.
Hey, thank you so much. Cheers,
You're
mate.
welcome. Thanks for your time. I really enjoyed that.